Okay, so we're going live.
Yes, I got the message. We are streaming live on YouTube. Amazing. All right, everybody, whoever has connected to audio, I see that some people are still connecting to audio. Welcome, welcome. Happy Thursday. We are live on YouTube, and it's officially almost the middle of January. Can you guys believe the first month of the year is going to be over before we know it? That is crazy. For those of you that are into this more metaphysical stuff, time acceleration is actually real. Do some research on it. It's very interesting. Okay, I'm going to start sharing my screen just so that I can get it up. All right, here we are. And I'm going to give it another couple of minutes for people to join. It's a cold night tonight. We're getting another storm. For those of you that are keeping an eye on the weather. All right, here we are. Can you guys see the screen? All okay? I'm sharing okay. I really want to make sure that it's properly shared. Hi, Mary.
Hi, Simone.
Nice to see you. New picture there. All right, so what time? I know my phone and my phone says it's 8:01 and my laptop says it's 8:04. Crazy how this is not synced. And then they're the same company. They're both from Apple. Okay, we have a great presentation tonight. I'm going to power through so that we can have enough time for some Q&A. We talked about a lot of this in past sessions. I mean, and I kind of touched on it. I don't want to say that I talked at length because I didn't, but I know that we've had some conversation in the WhatsApp group, and I gave you guys some of the tips and some of the things to buy. But tonight we're going to be talking about hydration, proper hydration. So I'm going to kind of go over what I've talked to those exclusive group members in the WhatsApp group, but I will take more questions, of course. And this is more in depth, and I have more of the scientific terms, and we'll get through it all. Let me see. Okay, great. So I guess we can start officially since we're already live on YouTube, and I don't want people to sort of jump off when they see that we're not starting. So for those of you, although I don't know that there are any new people, but for those of you that do know me, you know me, but for those of you that have joined and don't know me, this is me. I'm a holistic transformational health coach. So I do a lot of transformation in the sense of the way we look at food, some of the things that we deal with, such as habits and addictions and things of that nature when it comes to nutrition. So it's a transformation from the way that you used to looking at food to the way that you should be looking at food as a nourishment rather than as something that you have to do. I also wrote a book. I'm also a regenerative detoxification specialist. I studied that in the United States under a master herbalist. And I also studied holistic cancer, and I'm also a personal trainer, been so since about 2006, 2007. So let's begin. So tonight we're going to be talking about hydration. So hydration goes beyond just drinking water. In fact, I made a reel today on Instagram, and I talked about how drinking water does not hydrate you. And I'm sure that a lot of people are wondering, why would you say that? Of course it does, but it doesn't. What really should happen is you want to make sure you get that water into the cells. That is true hydration. As I mentioned in previous episodes, we talked about how to really be hydrated, the cells have to actually get the water in, and cells are like miniatures of us. They also breathe, so they need oxygen. They also eat, so they need nutrients. They also drink, so they need water, and they do other things like they poop, so they excrete as well. And that's what ends up in the lymphatic system, which is why it's important that you always make sure that you clean and move your lymph, and you open the channels of detoxification that the body has. And those are the skin, the breathing, the obviously defecating, so going to the bathroom number 2, urine, going to the bathroom number 1, and various other ways. There are many ways of detoxifying, nutritionally and otherwise. But it's important that the cells and their surrounding like environment is clean. Otherwise, that's what leads to them getting damaged. But getting back to water, let's understand hydration and what it actually means. So it's the process of providing adequate water to the body to ensure that all its functions can be carried out efficiently. So all its functions means that every cell is able to do what it's supposed to do. So those are their functions, and those have to be done efficiently. So imagine if you, as an organism, so let's say you were the cell, and you don't get to drink, or you only get to drink once every 3 weeks. Imagine that. You would have massive headaches and you would probably die. So that's why it's important that we hydrate properly. And hydration actually involves the maintenance of a balance of fluids, which is essential for processes. So what water does actually, or hydration, I should say, is it actually carries nutrients. So it transports the nutrients, it adjusts the body temperature, and it wastes elimination. So when you do get the proper hydration, for example, if you had to go to the bathroom number 2, you actually need to drink water. People who don't drink adequate water and don't get properly hydrated, they actually get constipated. So you really need to have water in your system, but it has to go in the cells appropriately. So hydrating is actually vital for overall health and well-being. I don't know, I think I mentioned to you guys before, when I have to go to the bathroom, whether it's for number 1 or number 2, it actually suspends my ability to think and reason, like seriously does. I cannot think properly. So that's why it's important when they say vital for overall health and well-being, that's actually very true. And I mentioned to you guys before that if you have feces in your colon and you don't go to the bathroom, what happens is the colon wall on the inside will actually absorb from the feces. That's why it's important to every day. Ideally, actually, we should go to the bathroom number 2 after each meal. So if your digestive system works really well and really efficiently, you will eat, your body will digest, it'll take what it needs, everything will move through the whole system, the digestive system, and then you'll go to the bathroom and you'll eliminate the waste from that meal. And you should be able to do that after every meal. That almost never happens because a lot of people have very damaged digestive systems at some point from the mouth to the anus. There's some sort of dysregulation or dysfunction. So that rarely happens. However, it is important that you do maintain proper health and well-being, and hydration is part of that. It impacts physical performance. So imagine being dehydrated and trying to go and do a sport. It would be impossible. As I just mentioned, cognitive function. Yes, I have no cognitive function when I have to go to the bathroom. So being hydrated is very important for me as well. I actually get headaches as well when I don't have proper hydration. And also the metabolic processes in the body depend largely on hydration. So hydration is super important. And remember, 75% of our body is actually water. So it's important that, like attracts like. So like energy needs like energy. So it's important to make sure that we stay hydrated. And I think it's worth mentioning now that, because a lot of people think this, when you drink coffee, because coffee is made with water, you're actually hydrating. You're not. In fact, for every cup of coffee that you drink, you need to have 2 cups of water to just mitigate dehydrating effects. So you're just getting back, you're not hydrating. You're just eliminating the dehydrating effects of the coffee you just drank, so that you're just coming back to base. You're not under the base, you're like at level. you're not above level where you're actually hydrated. You're just basically replenishing what you lost from the coffee, and most people walk around very dehydrated. And again, that's also because when you drink, and you see a lot of people doing this, you drink a lot of water and you go to the bathroom to pee a lot. So that means that the body is not actually taking that water in and taking it into the cells to do the proper what it needs to do. You're actually drinking it and then peeing it out. So you're not really hydrating. You're actually it just goes through the system and you pee it out. So it's important to make sure that when you hydrate, you get that water, you get the hydration into the cells so that they can do their job properly. So this is how hydration actually takes place in the body. So because it's a fundamental biological process, and that happens as follows, okay? So you take the fluids in, the intake of fluids. So hydration actually begins when you consume liquids, primarily water, of course, or hydrating foods with high water content. And of course, we'll have Q&A later on, but in case you are wondering, hydrating foods with high water content are things that are juicy. So if you look at fruits, let's say watermelon, that's, I think, about 93% water. So there you go. That's a juicy one. Cucumbers are very water dense as well. Celery is very water dense. Even like when you look at fruits, those ones that have a lot of juice in them, even oranges, those are high water content foods. So you start to hydrate even when you eat those foods. And the best part about them, of course, is because they contain things like minerals, which actually helps them get into the cells. And that is the magic right there. You need to have minerals to be able to get into the cells. So celery actually has natural salt in it. It doesn't taste salty, but it's the natural salt that the body looks for. And that's why it actually is very hydrating. So if any of you have heard of the celery juice craze, that's actually a thing, and it's very beneficial. All right, so next step here is absorption. So this is when the water is absorbed. And the first place that this happens is in the small intestine, which is the first part after the stomach. Okay, so the large intestine is the colon, which is where feces goes, all the waste to be eliminated out of the body. And the small intestine is where the food that you eat and the hydration happens. So it absorbs the nutrients, it absorbs the hydration. And then after that, from there, it actually enters the bloodstream where it's distributed throughout the body. So remember what we were saying, the blood is like the kitchen. That's where all the food is, all the nutrients. Blood goes everywhere in the body and it delivers all the nutrients to all the cells. That's why when you don't have proper intake of proper nutrition, the blood delivers things to the cells, but if there's a deficiency and the cells are looking for something specific that you're not delivering, then that means that they don't have that thing to be able to carry out their function. So imagine if you are a home builder and you don't get delivery of the bricks, how are you going to build a house, right? Or if you're making a car and you're a car manufacturer, but you don't get delivery of the, let's say, the tires, you can't put tires on the car. What are you going to do with the car, right? So you want to make sure that you have all the nutrients, including hydration, so that it can be evenly distributed throughout the body. So cellular hydration, which is exactly what we've been talking about. So water moves into individual cells through the cell membrane. This is sciencey, but I wanted you guys to understand it. And it does so via osmosis, okay? And that hydration is what balances the concentration of electrolytes inside and outside the cell. That's the magic of hydration right there. Cellular hydration. You want to make sure everything happens at cellular level. The whole system, the whole body, the whole organism is built of cells. There are cells in the nail, cells of the liver, cells of the pancreas, cells of the stomach, cells of the eye, cells of the brain. Everything is cells. Everything is cellular. And you want to make sure that all those cells have what they need, okay? So that is cellular hydration. Utilization. So this is the process, the same thing as digestion. It's a 4-step process. This is a 5-step process. So the utilization, so within the cells, water becomes part of a metabolic process or a series of metabolic processes. It helps maintain the structure of the cell, so the cells don't become like shriveled up, like let's say raisins. And if you think of raisins used to be grapes, and now they've kind of shriveled up. And why? Because they're dry. There's no more hydration in them. There's no more juice. But if you want to reconstitute them, soak them in water and let them absorb. You'll see how they kind of puff back up, right? Because now they're hydrated. So yes, the water becomes part of the metabolic processes. It helps maintain the cell structure, and it also helps in the transport of nutrients and in the removal of waste. So that water is necessary for the cell to get hydrated, and it's also necessary for the cell to take out its waste, its poop. Just like I was telling you guys earlier, when you have to go number 2, you need to have a lot of water in the system for that poop to be soft enough that you're not going to be straining when you go and creating bad things like fissures or hemorrhoids. All right, regulation is the body. It's actually the body that regulates the water balance through a mechanism like thirst, right? So when you feel the need to drink, that's a signaling of the need to replenish fluids. That's why the body is signaling to you, just like it does with everything else. When you have a headache, when it's a body calling out to you saying, hey, you need to address this. This is not where it should be, and this is my way of letting you know. So because it regulates the water through the mechanisms like thirst, it also does the same for excretion. It removes the excess water. So when you go to the bathroom, number 2, it removes excess water via the colon, and it does the same thing via the kidneys for urine. So what it does is it pulls it out, right? All right. So this cycle is actually continuous, and it's so to maintain homeostasis. Homeostasis is actually balance. It's the state of balance. The body always looks to be in a state of homeostasis, in a state of balance. And the cycle is continuous to maintain this balance and to ensure all the bodily functions that depend on water. And that is what I said earlier: cognitive function, physical activities, everything needs to be supported. Hello, Pretty. Nice to have you join us. All right. So the importance of water. Here we go. So at the cellular level, water is crucial to maintain the cell structure, the function, and the health. So in essence, water is indispensable at cellular level. It supports life, and it supports the life-sustaining reactions and processes. And I'm sure that you guys have all heard about, how what happens, but nutrient transport, for example, water, what it does, it's actually the primary medium through which nutrients are transported into cells so that cells can get nourished. Because if you think about it, even though I said that it's actually through blood is liquid. Blood depends on water too. So water is the foundation of it, right? Waste removal, yeah. So it facilitates the expulsion of waste products from cells so that the cells don't become toxic. You don't want to have a lot of buildup of toxins because, like I said earlier, what's going to happen is the cells are going to get damaged. Chemical reactions. So water is actually a vital participant in the biochemical reactions in the cells. So the energy production, like the reason why we have energy is because water is involved by and large. It also helps with enzymatic functions. So when enzymes have to do their jobs, water is involved. So it's very important to be properly hydrated. Temperature regulation. So what cells do actually is they use water to regulate temperature and to maintain a stable internal environment. So that temperature that we have internally, which should be at a certain level, that actually is heavily relied on because of hydration. Okay, so it's optimal for biochemical functioning, optimal. And it's so, and I know I said optimal, but it's actually crucial, to be honest. And so very important to get properly hydrated. And like I said, it's indispensable. Where volume and pressure is concerned is because the water maintains the cell, which is necessary because its shape and its structural integrity is actually dependent on the water. Like I was giving you guys the example with the grape and the raisin. So it kind of caves in on itself. It just kind of like shrivels up. But when you give it water, it actually like puffs back out, right? So that's why it's important. The volume of all cells actually are contingent on water. So water is indispensable. Make sure that you get hydrated, properly hydrated. Now, hydration at cellular level, I wanted to go more in depth in that because I keep saying hydration at cellular level, but a lot of people don't understand what does it mean. So water is essential within cells because it transports the nutrients and it removes the waste. So just like we are, and I was giving you guys the example that cells are like, imagine them like little humans. We eat and we poop and we breathe, right? So it's important for them to have that same cycle going at the same time so that they are actually able to stay healthy. Just like we don't stay healthy unless we get in the proper nutrition and we're able to eliminate and breathe, the same thing with cells. So water facilitates the removal of nutrients across the removal of nutrients from the small intestine, and then it moves it across the cell membrane inside the cell where they're used for obvious metabolic processes, whatever they may be, depending on what the cell is and where it's located. And the reason why water is helping out with removal of waste is because it helps dissolve waste products within the cell, and then it transports them out so that it can be eliminated so that the cells can stay clean and continue to function. They don't get affected, they don't get dysfunctional, they don't get mutated, they don't get like that acidity and that toxic level buildup. So without adequate water, cells actually cannot effectively receive nutrients or get rid of waste. It's as simple as that. So then you're going to have impaired cellular function, and impaired cellular function leads to impaired health. So you have to make sure that the cells always have the ability to function in the way that they're meant to. And water is an important process. All right, so this is how cells get impacted by hydration. So as I said, and I wanted you guys to have this visual here, the cellular function and the cellular structure works like this. The structure, the water provides the cells with the fluidity for the cell membrane, which is right here. So this membrane, which maintains the cell's shape and integrity, actually. Because if, let's say, a little part of it here gets damaged and like the integrity starts to break down, then from outside of the cell, toxins can leak in right through that breakage, right? So you want to make sure that the structure of the cell has integrity, like it's strong. All right, and the cell function. So the hydration ensures that enzymes function properly and supports the cellular processes that are essential to produce energy. For those of you that have studied and know about the science behind it, ATP, adenosine triphosphate, that's energy. And obviously the overall cell health, that's important too. So proper hydration is vital. I mean, I know that I'm stating the obvious here, but to maintain the health and functionality of cells, hydration is so important. And I'm sure there's been many of you, like I was telling you about me, who have gone without water. So you got dehydrated, especially if you drank lots of coffee and then you didn't replenish. And then how did you feel? You probably got a headache. You probably started getting pain in your kidneys, and God knows how else. And cognitive function, that's a big one for me. When I'm dehydrated, don't ask me to think. I'm not able to. Okay, so the metabolic reactions, so metabolism, right? Like when we metabolize foods that we eat, that's what it's referring to. So what role does water play in this? Well, it actually is a solvent for reactions. It acts as a solvent. So what I mean by that is, think of it like this. A solvent is something that can break things down. So when you make food, and let's say the food that, like the pot that you cooked it in, let's say you forgot it on the stove and it got stuck on the bottom, right? What do? Do we not soak it in water to make sure that that stuff unsticks for easy cleaning? That's a solvent, right? The same thing for a solvent would be something like that you strip the paint off walls, right? Turpentine, as well as a solvent is the stuff that we use when we take off nail polish. That's a solvent, Okay, so water is actually a solvent too. So it does so in which metabolic reactions can occur. Obviously, that's a bigger discussion, but it facilitates the proper mixing and interaction of molecules. So it facilitates a lot. That's what it does. The chemical reaction. So water participates directly in what's called hydrolysis and dehydration synthesis reactions. I told you I would be a little sciencey because I wanted you guys to understand. So these reactions are vital for breaking down nutrients and building new compounds, right? To be able to obviously facilitate the health of the cells. And temperature regulation. So when we absorb and distribute heat, water helps maintain the stable temperature. Okay, so it ensures the metabolic reactions proceed at the necessary rate, not too fast, not too slow. So temperature regulation is another important reason why we should be hydrated, because at least we want to have core temperature where it should be. So again, water is indispensable and crucial for the smooth conduct of metabolic reactions. So in order for the metabolism to work, in order for the nutrients to get delivered, in order for everything to obviously be distributed as it should be, for water to get extracted out of where it needs to be extracted so that we can move out waste, water plays a crucial role. Even for us to be able to eat. If you're going to say you want to eat and you want to make sure that you get the food inside where it needs to go, water is involved. So there's no way around it. You can't just eat and not drink. All right. So this is why hydration matters. So it has several physical benefits as well. So for the skin, moisture, elasticity, and a healthy glow, obviously, we all love that. So the skin is involved in this as well. So adequate hydration helps maintain the moisture in the skin. It promotes elasticity and that healthy glowing appearance. For digestive function, water aids in digestion because it helps break food down. It absorbs the nutrients and it passes the waste through the gut very smoothly. So it doesn't get stuck on the walls of the gut. It actually, if the water is there, it can constantly get it removed as it goes along. And this is an important one, joint lubrication. So it actually keeps the joints well lubricated. It reduces the friction and it provides ease of movement, and it helps prevent joint pain and discomfort. So we do have the cartilage in between the joints, but that cartilage being made up of cells, just like bones are made up of cells, requires water so that it can be staying elastic, so it doesn't break down. So the cell, remember when I was showing you guys the structure of the cell, it has to have integrity. Well, that's what it's referring to. You don't want to start breaking down these important structures and these important tissues because you're going to feel pain. So that's why the body always knows what to do, but it has to have the support, and water is one of those things. So make sure that you get it even for these reasons, even if you want to do it for skin health. And skin is the organ that allows things to enter the body. So it's important that what you put on skin is actually of good quality and has proper nutrients, but it also serves as the exit of toxins from the body. So when we sweat, the reason why sweat smells is because there's a lot of toxins coming out through the skin. For people that sweat and don't really smell, it means that the inside is very clean. There's nothing toxic that's coming out. Only the toxins smell. And of course, digestive function, well, we don't have to talk about that because it's important that we digest our food. Food has to be properly broken down to be absorbed. We have to obviously make sure that we have waste removed properly. So it has to go in the proper space, and it has to obviously be, you have to be well hydrated so that you don't get constipated. I discussed that at the beginning. And as we age, joint pain, especially in the winter, knees, we all feel that. It's important. All right, so why hydration matters for the brain? Well, I was telling you guys, Preeti, you joined us a bit later, but I was telling everybody how when I don't go to the bathroom, or if I have to hold, be it number one or number two, I cannot concentrate, I cannot function, I cannot think, I cannot reason, I cannot do anything that requires thinking. So my cognitive function declines significantly. I could say that without hesitation when I don't have proper hydration or when I have to go and I hold. So focus and concentration very heavily affected by adequate or inadequate hydration. So adequate hydration actually helps you maintain focus and concentration, because what it does is it ensures a proper blood flow to the brain, and it obviously through the blood it delivers oxygen, right? So imagine if the blood is too thick, okay? The viscosity of the blood is important, because that's what typically leads to strokes and heart attacks and things of that nature. So you have to maintain that proper balance in the thickness of the blood. And alertness. So obviously it keeps you alert by supporting the brain's energy production and preventing fatigue, right? So you want to make sure that the brain is obviously able to stay alert and doesn't get fatigued. And mood balance. I know that probably a lot of people are like, how is water related to my mood? Well, it is, because sufficient hydration is linked to balanced mood and cognitive function. And what it does that by facilitating neurotransmitter synthesis. So neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin, things like that, are actually affected by proper hydration in the brain. So I just wanted to show you guys how various organs that are very important, especially, okay, so the digestive tract, the digestive system heavily relies on water. The brain, cognitive function, fatigue, all of that stuff heavily relies. If you're thinking of vanity, you want to look good, you want the skin on your face, which is the first thing people see about us, you want that to look good. Water and hydration is obviously involved in that as well. And of course, the kidneys, right? Kidney function. I mean, for any of you that know anybody that has had to go through dialysis, I cannot even stress enough. And then oftentimes I'm asked like, okay, which is the most important organ? And it's difficult to say, but man, kidneys are so important. You have no idea. They filter the waste from the blood. So the blood stays clean as a result of the kidney function. So if the kidneys are not, if you have kidney disease and your kidneys are not functioning properly, your blood is going to get dirty, and dirty blood is going to lead to very severe diseases, which is why people do dialysis, right? It puts your blood through that machine to clean it. It's that important, because your kidneys cannot do that job. That's the reason for dialysis. It's to clean the blood by and large. So very important. Sufficient hydration actually helps the kidneys filter waste from the blood, I mean, from the body, but from the blood. And just so you guys know, the blood has a very, very tight window of pH. So potential for hydrogen, right? pH is if you're too acidic or too base or too alkaline. So if that number goes outside of the range that the body supports, you die very quickly. So this is so important. I cannot stress how important it is that you keep kidneys functioning properly. Water also, or sufficient hydration, I should say, because I don't want to refer to it just as water, because like I said, some foods also provide hydration. But hydration also prevents kidney stones and helps the kidneys stay healthy. Obviously, they are made of cells too, and those cells need to be able to have food, water, and air. Cardiovascular health, we can't forget that. And proper hydration actually maintains the blood volume and the blood pressure. So that blood pressure that we're talking about, when people are dehydrated, yeah, the blood becomes thicker and it's much harder for it to travel because it's thicker, so it's more viscous. And it ensures that the cardiovascular system functions efficiently. So water is important even for the heart. Nobody ever thinks of that. Like they just think that the heart requires some things, but not this. But yes, this is very important as well. So the cardiovascular system also relies on it. So staying well hydrated supports one of the most important and most vital systems, the kidney system. So obviously for that, you promote longevity and you reduce the risk of chronic health conditions. And we all know type 2 diabetes and the kidneys. We talked about that in previous sessions. Remember that. So keep those kidneys nice and healthy and definitely well hydrated. So hydration and various drinks, what's the difference? I talked a little bit about how people think that when they drink coffee, they're hydrating. There are people who think that when they drink their sodas or their pops, they're hydrating because, well, it's liquid. I mean, wine is liquid too, and so is vodka, but you're not hydrating, you're actually dehydrating. So various drinks, people think that because they drink a liquid, they're actually hydrating. But remember what I said, if it doesn't get into the cells, you're not hydrating. You're just ingesting liquids. And then you're going to end up, peeing, or you're going to do damage because you're going to pull and the way I wanted to explain it to you guys, what happens is when you drink things that are dehydrating in nature. Okay. So for example, let's take alcohol or those, what do you call those drinks that give you energy drinks. I don't want to say names because I don't want to promote any company that produces those, but you guys know which ones I'm talking about. So what happens is they're so acidic and so poisonous or so toxic that what the body does is it pulls all the water out of cells to mitigate that. Like, what do we do, for example, when we burn ourselves? Like, if you burn your hands, you not go and put it under cold water really quickly, right? So acidic stuff, it's like acids. Take, let's say, battery acid. If you were to spill it on your hand, what would happen is that would eat away at the skin cells. It would destroy the skin cells. You would lose the integrity of the cells. It would eat right through it. Well, so what the body does, what happens when we get when we burn ourselves? Do we not get a blister that's full of water? That's right. So what the body does is it takes the water and it concentrates it where there's damage. So that's what the body does internally. I know we can't see it, but that's what it does. So especially when we drink, like people who drink copious amounts of alcohol or even coffee. I worked with a client back when, shortly after I graduated from school from nutrition. He was drinking about 1.5 liters of coffee a day, not a drop of water. He was so dehydrated. So that's what happens when you put so much stuff in the body that is dehydrating. The body's going to pull water from anywhere it can, including the blood, so that it can mitigate where the most damage is done. So very, very important that we stay hydrated. So you need to choose your beverages wisely, right? So that's why I wanted to talk about the blood sugar spikes and dehydration. So sugary drinks in particular can have the most detrimental health effects, as I'm sure you can all imagine, because the blood sugar spikes, what happens is they cause rapid increases in the blood glucose levels. So if you're drinking a can of Coke, or if you're drinking a can of whatever it is, ginger ale or whatnot, those sugary drinks, even coffee with a lot of sugar, like a lot of people do, so it's going to lead to insulin resistance and diabetes over time. I mean, that much sugar that you cannot clear out of the body is going to lead to that for sure. I mean, I don't have to say that. That's stating the obvious. We see people who have diabetes as a result of all the consumption of sugar. And dehydration. So despite the liquid content, just like I was saying earlier, because a lot of people think, well, coffee's got water in it. So despite the liquid content, the sugar concentrations can actually lead to dehydration because it triggers the body to excrete more fluids to mitigate. So it takes more water out, right? So it triggers the body to eliminate more fluids. So if you consume these sugary drinks on a regular basis, it's going to disrupt the blood sugar regulation. So it's going to go back into those things that we talked about in the past, maintaining a proper blood sugar levels. And it's going to counteract proper hydration. It's actually, no matter what you're going to drink, it's not going to get into like you're not going to get water into cells by adding sugar to the water. Never. You guys know, because we talked in the WhatsApp group, what we have to add to water to get it into the cells, and it's definitely not sugar. So these are the two biggest offenders right here. So alcohol, caffeine, energy drinks. And I'm sure that there's probably some of you who are saying protein shakes. What? But let's talk about alcohol first. So it has a diuretic effect for those of you that have consumed alcohol, and it causes the body to lose more fluid through increased urination. For those of you that have gone out or have gone to a party or whatever, let's say, and you drank, what happens is you go and you pee over and over. And whether that's wine, whether that's beer, that's what happens. And that's going to lead to dehydration. Of course, your body is eliminating all the water that it has used to mitigate. Caffeinated drinks, so high amounts of caffeine that's found in coffee and in certain teas. I don't want to just demonize the coffee because there are many teas that are very caffeinated. So they have the same effect. They have a diuretic effect through moderate consumption of typically does not cause dehydration. It does so like if it becomes habitual. So if every day you're drinking tea, and I know that teas have a lot of benefits, you still have to make sure that you get the proper hydration in the cells. So have your tea, but make sure that if you're going to drink a lot of coffee, like I was telling that client of mine, if you're going to drink like 1.5 liters of coffee a day, and I understand that there are some benefits to coffee especially when you consume it black, it's very antioxidant rich, great, amazing. But that means that you're going to have to drink, so 1.5 liters of coffee, you should drink at least, and I emphasize that, 3 liters of water just to bring yourself to level, to make up for what the coffee took out. And then you have to give it more because typically that's what the body needs. It needs to obviously stay hydrated. So imagine how much, you wouldn't even have enough time to drink the coffee and the water and eat. There just wouldn't be enough time. So very important. Coffee causes a lot of hydration. Energy drinks, we already talked about that. They contain a lot of caffeine, other stimulants. There was somebody who did a little bit of digging, and I think that they found that there were a whole bunch of drugs or traces of drugs in one particular energy drink, which was crazy. Like the stuff that they give people when, like in hospitals, like drugs, like real drugs, and cocaine. So if you're sensitive to these effects, or if let's say you've never consumed them, it's going to be an all-out assault on the system. So make sure that you stay away from energy drinks. Now imagine when, and I'm sure you have heard, when you mix those energy drinks with alcohol, that's asking for a lot of trouble. That's all I'm going to say. And protein shakes, I know a lot of people would probably be questioning, why would protein shakes not be hydrating? Of course they are. Well, if you consume a lot of protein without adequate water, like you're going to need more water to metabolize and for the kidneys to process the protein. So that will eventually lead to dehydration. And remember, just because you're drinking more water doesn't hydrate you. You have to have the proper minerals in there. That's the most important thing. And yes, so protein typically requires like proper hydration so that it can obviously be balanced. But a lot of people don't realize that. They drink lots of protein shakes, make it with water, and they think, oh, it's fine, it's got water in it. But remember, you have to have adequate levels and you have to have proper minerals so that it can get into cells, because that's where it's at. It has to get into the cells. And before we move to this, and I really wanted to talk about it, those of you that, so I did heavy vegan diet, and I'm talking about raw vegan diet. I was raw vegan for about 8 years, almost 10, when I started. And let me tell you, when I used to be raw vegan, I never drank water. I was never dehydrated. And I used to check my water content. But I was eating a lot of, first I was drinking celery juice every morning, or some sort of juice. I would juice for myself. I had various juicing recipes with vegetables and fruits. And I would also have a lot of fruits. In the summer, I was obsessed with watermelon. I still am. I love watermelon. So that's a lot of water. What I wouldn't need to go and also drink water on top of all that. There was a lot in there. Same thing with grapes. Grapes were like, and I had a concoction, grapes with lemon juice. It was like an addiction for me. I used to drink that every day. It was amazing. And I suggest you guys try it. Obviously do that in the summer, because right now we're all looking for warming foods. But yes, so if you take in the foods and the vegetables and the fruits that have a lot of water content, you will not need to be hydrated through water as well, because those already have their own quantities. And if you look at fruits and vegetables, not only do they have the water content, but they also have a lot of vitamins, minerals, everything else that actually gets into the cells, and nutrients, right? So that's why it's important. But water itself is the ideal hydrator because it has efficient absorption. It has 0 calories, so you don't have to take in any calories, not like alcohol, not like coffee, unless you're drinking, obviously, black, in which case it doesn't have calories. It has maybe like 0 point something. No additives, and it supports the bodily functions, okay? So it absorbs efficiently because it quickly replenishes lost fluids. So once you have, let's say, peed out a whole bunch of your water, if you drink it back, you get it back into the system really quickly. So that's important. It has 0 calories. So unlike many of the beverages out there, water gives you the hydration without extra calories, sugars, or any artificial ingredients like the fake sugars that they have in like Diet Cokes, Coke Zero, all of those things. They give you like the sweeteners. So those are artificial. Some of them have flavors. Like if you look at that bubbly water, like the ones that are just water, but they have some sort of like lime flavor or lemon flavor. Okay, so none of that. If you want, just buy the proper, water by itself and then add lemon yourself or add lime yourself. And there's many things. You could put cucumber to infuse it. You could put berries. Much better for you than the artificial stuff. It also facilitates all the bodily functions from cellular metabolism to temperature regulation and all of that stuff that we already discussed, and it doesn't have any adverse effects. And it also provides efficient hydration without unnecessary components. So this is basically the best choice for maintaining hydration, health, and literally life. But remember what we discussed in the past. The only way that, like, if you're consuming tap water, and I believe that I have put together some pictures for you guys to see, but I don't know that I brought them here. I could send them to you guys in the WhatsApp group. If you have a look at the pipes, and one of my friends and I were looking at the pipes from the municipal systems. If you were to see them, you would never touch water from your tap ever again. It is so dirty. I mean, I'm talking so disgusting. And not just that, but there's also obviously a lot of like, think of all the rodents like rats and mice, and they do their business there too. They pee and they do all kinds of things, and cockroaches, and just imagine what's there that we do not see and we just trust because the water looks clean. It's not, because viruses, which are microscopic, are in the tap water. Think of all the people, like in the general population, there are people who do drugs, whether they snort it, whether they inject it, whether they take it from their doctor. So I'm talking about, let's say, the birth control pill. Okay, women that take the birth control pill, those are hormones. So those women go and pee in the toilet just like you and I. That water ends up in the same municipal system because it goes to a common municipal system, like my water from my tap in my toilet and yours and everybody else's. And that municipal system has to filter everything out and send it right back to our taps and our toilets. Now, all the people that drink alcohol, eat really bad food, they throw up, they obviously urinate all the stuff that's in their body. So the drugs, the medications. So we're all ingesting other people's medications, drugs, and hormones if we are drinking water from a tap, plus viruses. I mean, if you guys were to do, this is very high level, but if you guys were to do really in-depth research, you will see there's like traces of feces that doesn't get caught by the systems of the municipal like filtration, because they're not sophisticated enough. And think about it, it's not in the best interest of the of the municipality to invest so much money. They just barely pass at the minimum of what is expected of them. Fluoride is a known carcinogen that ends up in the water. So you guys should know it's very important to invest in a good filtration system. You don't have to go spend thousands of dollars, although if you have that, go ahead. It's actually great. You should, if you can afford it. But if not, then definitely the minimum. And there are some filtration systems out there that removes even fluoride. So it goes through a 5-stage filtration. And I'm not talking about, I mean, I know the ones that you guys have in the fridge, like the Britas and whatever else they're called, those are okay, but they're very basic. You should invest in something a little bit more, especially if you have kids. And I know that a lot of people say, well, can I just boil the water? You can. Oh, and there's also what's that chemical that they put in water even at the pools that is also in the water? Chlorine. And they use chlorine because they're trying to kill everything that's in the water. So if you can imagine, they know that there's stuff in the water that they also obviously have to put in the chlorine to kill it. But it basically just gets rid of the chlorine, but not much else. And you can test the water. Go and get those strips. You could buy them to see if the water is now alkaline or if it's still acidic. So you will see. But yes, we already talked about how water is the most ideal hydration. However, it does need to have its minerals in it. And naturally, from nature, in places that have not yet been touched, there are minerals in the water, and those are pulled from the ground. And when you drink that kind of water, that's actually clean, clear, you can actually get the minerals with it, and it actually does get into the cells. However, we all know that not only has the water been compromised, because a lot of stuff has been dumped into the waterways, like chemical companies have no problem. They are so powerful and they have so much money that it's very easy for them to even pay the fines. That if they get fined because they've done something like that, then they just pay the fines and they keep going. But also the soil has become so depleted. So even the minerals that you look for are no longer there. So obviously you're wondering what we could do. I talked to some of you guys in the WhatsApp group, but here are also some healthy alternatives that you can have for in lieu of the sugary drinks. So you can infuse your water. I mentioned that a little bit earlier. You could add slices of fruits, vegetables, like you could put cucumber in your water if you want. It has like such a nice pleasant flavor. You could add herbs. So you could put what I used to do in the summer when I can get mint. I put mint in the water. It actually gives it such a nice, really refreshing taste. You could put oregano leaves if you enjoy that. So it's obviously hydrating. It's low in calories, no artificial anything. And it also gives you a little bit of the whatever it may be, whether it's vitamins, medicinal, anything, it goes into the water and you ingest that, and it's actually really good for you beyond just getting you hydrated. Herbal teas, I'm a really big fan of that. So they're naturally caffeine free and they're available in many flavors. Make sure that they're not, artificially flavored, but the flavor comes from its natural source. Like, for example, chamomile has a flavor that comes from the chamomile flower, or the mint has the flavor that comes from the leaves. So herbal teas are actually hydrating and can be enjoyed. You can make them hot or cold. What I do a lot of times is I just make a lot of tea and then I just drink it cold at room temperature as water. Because sometimes I do not like bland water myself. I like it with lemon. I like it with something. So what I do is I add some stuff to it, or I just make tea. Sparkling water, so that is what offers the fizzy sensation of the soda without the sugar and calories. I'm a big fan of that lately. So of course, do not go for the flavored ones, like I was telling you guys earlier, the lemon flavored or a lime flavored or whatever flavored. Go for the unsweetened, and you can add your own to those particular waters, whether it's fruit, whether it's slices of anything. You could do that very easily. So lemon lime water, which is my favorite by far. You can mix a little bit of lemon with the water or sparkling water so that you can get those vitamins added from the lemon or the lime as well. Coconut water it's amazing. For those of you that have gone to the tropics, oh my God, has anybody ever drank coconut water? Isn't that the best thing ever? Oh my, like it's so pleasant. And it has all the electrolytes. So for those of you that have kids, or if you know people that have kids, grandchildren, if they ever get, and I know I'm not supposed to say this, and I hope it's going to be okay that I say this because I don't want YouTube to take this down, but no Pedialyte, none of that stuff, guys. Coconut water does the job, and it comes straight from the coconut. So make sure it's not from a box or whatever, and it's got additives. Like a lot of times they add a lot of sugar to it to make it more palatable. Go and get those young ones. They are in all stores. I've seen them. Break it and take the water from that, strain it, and give it to the baby, to the child. In fact, you know what else? You know when else you could do this? And it's the best thing, the best. If you're drunk, or if you know anybody who gets drunk, this is the best way to get everything back into the system, because when you pee all that alcohol out, you take a lot of your electrolytes and minerals and all that good stuff away. So this is the best way to get them back in, and it has a great flavor. So coconut water is like a super food, super beverage for me. And it's also, of course, low in calories, and it has natural sugars in comparison to the juices and sports drinks, especially the sports drinks. And yeah, it provides all the electrolytes, right? Which is what we are trying to make sure that we get in. Electrolytes, and those are really minerals, right? So just to explain to you guys, in case you're wondering why they're called electrolytes, is because they have an electric charge when dissolved in water or dissolved in bodily fluids, and even like when it's dissolved in the blood, in the urine, in the tissues, in the lymph liquid, all of that. So sodium, salt, calcium, we all know calcium, potassium, I talked to you guys about potassium, and every cell has the sodium potassium pump, so that's important to know. Like you need both of them. Chloride, phosphate, and magnesium. Those are your electrolytes. So that's why magnesium is super important. Like 99.9% of people are magnesium deficient. Everybody should take magnesium. So those are all electrolytes / minerals. And what they do is they keep the water levels balanced in the body. They maintain the pH levels, and they help move the nutrients in and out of the cells. So that, in a nutshell, is exactly what happens. So each alternative that I gave you guys here, the infused water, the herbal teas, the sparkling water, the lemon lime water, and the coconut water, they all provide hydration with fewer or no added sugars, and it makes them the healthier choices than the sugary and dehydrating beverages. So if you guys are wondering, like ever what to drink, this is what you should have instead of having, what you think is going to quench your thirst by having like Coke or anything like that. These are the things that you guys should do instead. All right, so let's set some hydration goals so that you guys can make sure you stay hydrated instead of just drinking water aimlessly. So this is the general guideline. So you have to drink about 8 glasses, which equals 64 ounces, in case you're counting, of water per day. But this varies based on individual factors. And I put this in capital letters. Remember the salt, not just water. You need to have all the minerals in the water. That electric charge is what gets them into the cells, electrolytes, okay? Obviously, the body weight and activity level, you need a more personalized approach. So, for example, if you're exercising, or like, let's say you're running, for half an hour, or you're exercising really heavily, you're squatting and doing really, really heavy stuff in the gym, you need a lot more hydration, water with salt. Because think about it, when you sweat, you're sweating out all your electrolytes too, which is why you need them back in. And that's why I was saying to you guys that make sure you give it, like if babies are sick, especially when we have fevers, we sweat, right? Well, we sweat out all of our electrolytes, which is why we need to get them back in. And for those of you that have ever tried it, if you ever taste sweat, it's salty because your electrolytes and your minerals are coming out through the sweat. So that's why you have to get them back in. So that's why it depends. Your body weight and activity level. Like if you're going to take a 10-year-old child who weighs, I don't know, 50 pounds, or you're going to take a bodybuilder who's like 210 pounds, 250 pounds, they have completely different needs when it comes to getting themselves hydrated. So you should also monitor your urine color. This is how you can actually tell. If your urine is light yellow, it means that you're well hydrated. But if it's super dark, it means that you're in need of more fluids. So you need to get hydration back in. And of course, thirst and physical signs. So thirst cues and physical signs of dehydration, such as headache, dry mouth, fatigue, dizziness, inability to think like me. Those are all physical signs that you really need to get your hydration in. And remember that each person has unique needs when it comes to hydration, and that changes with activity levels and even environmental conditions such as climate. So think of those really hot, sticky summer days when you're walking and you sweat, you need to replenish, right? And also your health status. Some people, if you have like kidney issues, you should actually hydrate better to make sure you keep those kidneys healthy, liver. But remember, even your brain needs it. So you just need to hydrate, period. Whether you're sick, whether you're healthy, hydration is still necessary. And remember what I said, it's actually crucial for every single thing. So to increase your daily water intake, make sure that you carry a water bottle. You could set yourself reminders if you need to. And the way you could do that, so for the water bottles, make sure it's the reusable one. Don't take those plastic ones. And just so you guys know, those ones that you buy at the grocery stores, the ones that are like, you could crush them really easily. The thinner the plastic, the more flexible, the worse it is. The harder plastics are better, but I would never say to anybody, drink out of plastic anything. But what I'm saying is that they don't leach into the body as easily. And I see people who have those water bottles. Let's say they buy a case and they keep it in the car in the winter when it's minus 20 degrees. Well, in those temperatures of fluctuation, what happens is the plastic starts to break down. So whether it's in the heat when it starts to melt, or whether it's in the cold when it hardens and then it starts to crack, and all of that leaches into the water. Terrible idea. But I'm not by any chance saying that you should go and drink out of hard plastic. I would prefer that you do so out of the ones that are reusable, but made out of metal or made out of glass, ideally glass, okay, for easy access. Set reminders. So you can do that on phone apps. There are phone apps for this to remind people to drink water, but you could do that by yourself. You could just put something in your calendar, and then every once in a while, it's gonna, like, a reminder will pop up on your screen to say drink, so that you can drink water regularly, depending on what you take in. Make sure you flavor your water. If you don't like bland water, flavor it so that it's gonna actually incentivize you to drink. So remember, fruits, cucumbers, herbs, lemon, those kind of things. Those will help a lot. Very important to hydrate upon rising. So when you wake up in the morning, make sure you drink a glass of water, put lemon and salt in it, and before every meal. So instead of drinking with the meal, which is going to get you bloated, have a glass before you have the meal, about an hour, half an hour is okay too, so that you can actually get all of that absorbed instead of it sitting in your stomach while you put food in. That's a big no-no. So about 30 minutes before each meal, and in the morning, as soon as you wake up, of course, brush your teeth, wash your face, and then make sure you hydrate. Replace other drinks. So substitute like anybody who drinks any crappy sodas, juices, any stuff like that that's pasteurized, make sure that you replace that with water, whether it's before meals, after meals, or snacks, anything like that. If you want to make a tea and that's your afternoon thing, then go ahead, make sure that you don't use sodas or juices, especially like the ones that are in plastic containers. They sit on the shelf at the grocery store for a long time. Yeah, water is so much better for you. So these simple habits can actually really boost your water intake so that you actually can get hydrated and all your cells and all your organs are properly hydrated, because that's the point that we're trying to do here. Here are some of the goals. So track your fluid intake. You could keep a log if you have time for that. You could put it on your phone. Listen to your body. So pay attention to the signs of dehydration. And we went over these: thirst, dry mouth, fatigue, increase intake as needed, especially if you feel like you can't think anymore, like me. Adjust your intake for activity and environment. So if it's super hot and humid, like even if you go on vacation, doesn't matter what's happening here in Canada. If you go on vacation and it's hot and humid and you're sweating, make sure that you hydrate appropriately. And if you're engaged in any activity, like I see, and when I lived in the United States, I remember I lived in Florida for a bit, and I remember I used to see people, they were walking vigorously in the heat. They were sweating buckets, not like a sign of water anywhere near them. And what happens is some people faint. So it's very important, because you take the balance of the salt in your in the body, it goes out of balance, and that's what's going to cause you to lose consciousness, especially because the blood is going to thicken and then the brain's not going to get oxygenated blood, and so on and so forth. So adjust for activity and environment. So if you're working out, make sure you take proper hydration, and the environment if it's hot. Use technology. So consider using your smartphone if you need to track how much you drink and to remind yourself. That's actually important. I used to do that when I was doing fitness competitions. And review and adapt. So assess your hydration plan. Make sure that you adjust based on the changes in your activity level. If you have never worked out, but now you're starting to work out and you go for very vigorous walks, as the weather gets better, of course, and you see that you're sweating, adjust, take in more. You need it, okay? Your health status as well. Remember, the body pulls water to mitigate any kind of trauma done to anywhere inside, like if you have a surgery, any of that. That's important to know. And seasonal changes. So as we go from summer to winter, in the summer we need more hydration. In the winter we tend to want to do things that are more comfortable. So we go from the cold and cooling to the very hot. We have a lot more fruits in the summer, whereas in the winter we want more of the warm stuff. So you have to adjust for that as well. So effective monitoring and adaptation of your hydration plan ensures that you stay adequately hydrated under any conditions that you find yourself in. So remember to monitor, just to set realistic hydration goals and monitor fluid intake effectively. You can assess, and we can assess right now, what are your current hydration habits? If you were to think of yourself right now, what are your habits like? Do you drink enough water for the day, or do you drink more caffeine and less water because caffeine is warm and you like it because it's cold outside and you really like the warmth? Because a lot of us do. But remember, you can actually warm up your water, put a little bit of lemon in it. You could put even a little bit of ginger and drink that. That's actually, it's like a tea, no caffeine, and you're drinking and you're getting yourself hydrated. If you could sip that throughout the day, you're winning. What are your common signs of dehydration? I told you guys, when I get dehydrated, I cannot think. Like literally, I remember I took an exam one time and I was so dehydrated. I was looking at the paper like, I'm like, what language is this? I could not think. Also, another question you can ask yourself: what can you use to set a daily water intake goal based on your individual needs, lifestyle, and activity level? Because only you know what you do. If you are sitting a lot, you still need to be hydrated. If you are exercising, you need to be hydrated, but at the level that can actually carry the exercise. So you have to do it for yourself in accordance to, and especially now, guys, if you are inside any place where the heat is on high, you know how you feel like your nose gets dry, your skin gets dry. Okay, so it's important to hydrate because the skin is looking for hydration too. What various methods can you use to track your water intake? What works for you? Like pen and paper? Sure, whatever it takes. A smartphone? Do you want to put something on your fridge or on like in your kitchen where you spend a lot of time, and put a piece of paper that says drink? Go for it. Whatever works. And can you commit to a hydration goal for a set period so you can get yourself used to it. Remember, it takes about 3 weeks to set the a habit. You could do that very easily. And who would like to share their experiences, their challenges, and tips for staying hydrated next week? Anybody? And do I have any volunteers, or am I going to volunteer someone? I just want to know who's trying their hardest to get their hydration. We put a lot of stuff in the WhatsApp group, so okay, Preeti, yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I just get drawn into stuff and I forget to drink water till it's too late and I'm really thirsty. So, and hydration has always been a problem with me.
Mm-hmm.
So what I do is I have these glass jugs. So one jug has about 4 glasses of water. It contains 4 glasses of water. So I fill up 2 jugs, and one I keep down in my kitchen table, and the other one I keep in my room where I study and all that stuff. So, I just know that I have to finish that. Of course, I don't end up doing it all the time, but I do try. So that's a kind of a tracker for me. Like, instead of looking at the phone all the time. Yeah. So I just fill up the.
That's a very amazing one, because if you have it in front of your eyes, it reminds you right there.
So you just keep,
drink me.
Yeah. And you see the level going down. So you're like, okay, today
exactly.
I drank. So, yeah.
Yes. And especially if you know that container holds 4 glasses. If you see it's half, you're like, oh, I drank 2 glasses.
Yeah.
If it's a quarter, you drank. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's important. And so last things, I wanted to give you guys the recipe of the week. I know that I gave it some of you guys in the WhatsApp group, but for those of you that weren't there, this is the magical substance right here that will hydrate you like nothing else. So I put it in 2, but adjust to what you need. So if you want to do 1 liter, instead of putting 1 teaspoon of potassium chloride, which is the no salt, that's the name that I gave you guys, that gives you guys potassium. So if you have 1 liter of water, you put half a teaspoon of potassium, and you put a 1/4 teaspoon sodium chloride, and half a teaspoon of sodium bicarbonate, and a 1/4 teaspoon magnesium sulfate. So just adjust all of that in how much water you have. But I gave you guys the 2 liter because that's the average that you should drink per day. So this is what it takes. This is the magic thing. However, if you cannot afford to buy all of these things, and you just need to put 1 thing, and sometimes in a rush I do it too, just put salt. Salt is more than enough, because you want to have even 1 mineral in there, like 1 thing. But oftentimes some salt has a multitude of minerals. Another thing that's really good, and it has, I think, almost all the minerals that you would need is, but again, you would have to, it's sea moss, but you would have to like mix this with water. You have to soak it. So you have to go through a particular thing, but it's important to get the minerals in. Remember, electrolytes is what gives the electrical charge, and cells absolutely need those. So the minerals are needed for the water to go into the cell. But this is basically so I'll go quickly over it. And remember, I said that there's the sodium potassium balance, just like there is calcium, magnesium, sodium, potassium. They're like together. They're like one is on one end, the other one is on the other end. So you need potassium. So potassium chloride basically needs salt. So that's no salt. There's a brand called No Salt. You'll find it on Amazon. You'll find it in some of the stores. And then you have sodium chloride, which is pink Himalayan salt, sea salt, or Celtic salt. And this is just salt, but sodium chloride, sodium is salt. Sodium chloride is salt. Sodium bicarbonate is baking soda. So that's an alkaline thing. So just makes your water alkaline, and that's important. And magnesium sulfate is for you to get your magnesium into your water. And you need to get, so basically magnesium sulfate is food grade Epsom salt. So don't go taking those Epsom salts that you put in your bathtub when you take a bath and they smell like lavender and stuff, because that's not food grade. So don't take that, but definitely magnesium sulfate, there's food grade. I think I showed you guys, I have one that I buy, which is food grade. You could consume it. And you could also put that in your bath too. Doesn't matter. I mean, if you can ingest it, you could put it in the tub, but definitely you could put that in your water. So you just mix all of these ingredients. So make a bottle just like this one. Let's say this is like 2 liters. You just put that in and drink this bottle throughout the day. You get all your minerals. And I promise you guys, if you do this, the reason why I wanted you guys to track, if any of you get headaches, please write to me and tell me if you get any more headaches, because oftentimes a lot of people get headaches and that they're just mineral deficient.
Yeah, it really helped me in my headaches. I used to get these headaches and I didn't know why I was getting it, but ever since I started drinking the salt water, I don't have headaches. So,
Of course.
yeah.
So a lot of people are just deficient, and that's why I'm telling you guys, magnesium is the #1 deficiency. And I agree with you, Preeti, because that's exactly how I found out. I used to get massive headaches, and I used to always think, oh, it's because I stayed up late. Oh, it's this. But I'll tell you, a lot of times it was because I was drinking crappy water that had nothing in it. I would pee it out, and I would get no electrolytes, no minerals. But minerals are what the body is looking for, and the water will get pulled in because the minerals are there. Otherwise, that water is not going to go anywhere. That's why you see people, they're puffy, right? They have like under their eyes, or in their hands, like if you do this, your skin is just going to stretch. You feel that you're dehydrated. All right, so that's it. That's all the lecturing I've had to do for you guys. So questions? Anybody's got questions?
I had a question. I had a question for you. Like this optimal water that we made, is it okay for it to be left over and then you drink it the next day? Like it doesn't really, it doesn't really spoil.
Salt is cleansing. Think of, and another thing that if you guys go away, I mean, when I lived in Florida, it was amazing because I used to go to the beach every day. So when you go into the ocean and you bathe in the ocean or any salt body of water, so even a sea will do, you absorb all that through the skin. So you get a lot of your minerals, right? So if you can, and the sea is there all the time. It doesn't, the sun beats it, and then in the winter. And so, yeah, absolutely. You make it. I mean, ideally, Preeti, you will drink it for the day so that you can make another fresh vegetable so you can get hydrated properly. But definitely you could have it the next day if you have leftover. Absolutely. Okay. Anybody else? Are you guys drinking your water? We had this discussion before. I really hope you are.
Yes.
And definitely first thing in the morning is very important because you kickstart everything. You kickstart your brain. And remember, water, H2O, hydrogen and oxygen, right? So it has hydrogen and it has oxygen. So oxygen, once you drink the water and it goes into the cells, the brain cells get their oxygen too, right? The blood that's been stagnant because you've been laying down the whole night, now all of a sudden the blood is going to get some of its hydration too. It starts to circulate, so it needs to be like thinned out, not thickened. So you don't want to be, because especially if you're going to spend 8 hours of the night where you are not drinking, so you're not hydrating, and if you're waking up in the middle of the night and you go to pee once or twice, you're eliminating some of your hydration. It's so important that you hydrate first thing in the morning. So when you wake up, 1 glass of water, and don't drink it super cold. And in fact, you should never drink it super cold.
I warm it up a little bit the first water of the morning.
Yeah. So it's ideal if it's like either room temperature that you could guzzle it, so you could drink a lot of it, or warm enough that you could sip it without burning yourself.
Very lukewarm.
Lukewarm, exactly. So add salt. I mean, it would be ideal if you could add all those things that I just showed you guys, which are right here. So you could add all of these great things so you can get your minerals, or just a little bit of salt, a pinch of salt, and some lemon juice from a real lemon. That is like such an important thing. You are waking up the digestive system, you're lubricating your joints, you are getting yourself you get all those electrolytes, your brain gets awakened so that you could actually think. You're not going to get headaches. And for those of you, I don't know if any of you have experienced this, but when you get all of that stuff in, it actually can even help you go to the bathroom. #2, it actually reminds your body like, okay, get the waste out. It's a new day. We're going to get started on a new everything. For some people, that's usually caffeine that does that. Want it to be caffeine. It's better if it's water and hydration. But for some people, it does that. Any other questions, you guys? We're almost done. We have 2 more weeks. I was looking at that. This group.
Another question, Simon. I thought sparkling water was not a good thing. Like I've never drunk it. So, but what exactly is sparkling water? How is it different from soda?
So this is the one I have, and as you guys can see,
Okay.
this is the San Pellegrino, and this is the one I like, and it's actually in glass. So it's not plastic. I mean, I know that there are some of them that make the plastic green bottles, but this is actually glass. So it has, what they do is they add carbon dioxide to it, but it has natural mineral water. So what you want to look for when you buy these things is like, where is it from? So for example, this one here, and I know you guys can't see because it blurs it out, but on this one, it says bottled at the source. So this is important because it means that they take it out of the ground and they put it in the bottles and then they add the carbonation to it to make it fizzy. But if you have water that is extracted and then it's put into this plastic containers to take it to some sort of like facility, and then they add it to bottles that are also made out of plastic, then you're so far away from the intended, like just like I tell you guys about foods, exactly the way Mother Nature made it is the best way you can have it. Like, do not go in any way, shape, or form through any processing. So if you have to go through a 7-stage step, and remember, these kind of things have to get delivered to stores, and sometimes they get delivered on trucks in the summer, and trucks get stuck in traffic. So it's plastic that gets heated up, and then they go inside a warehouse at the store, and you don't know whether it's hot or warm there, and the plastic leaches more in. And remember that sometimes they spill stuff on it, so it's better to probably just put it in a glass instead of just some of the tips that you guys should.
Yeah.
But yeah, some of these carbonated mineral waters, it's better to have it like ideally the way that Mother Nature makes it, like it never comes, with fizzy. But if you enjoy that, it's okay. Not a lot, not all the time. So if you like it, have it, but ideally the way that Mother Nature makes it. Yeah, so flat. Yeah. This is an Italian brand, if I'm not mistaken. This is from Italy. It should say somewhere here, product of, but I know the San Pellegrino is in Italy. Yeah, it is. San Pellegrino Terme Italia. Yeah. And this company has been established in 1899. So I'm not trying to advertise them because I'm not getting any kickbacks from it, but I do like it.
Because even Coke has been here for like many, many years.
God. Yes. Sugary water with before they used to have, addictive stuff in it.
Yeah.
But it was considered, coca leaves.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how it got its name. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. But definitely salts are very, very important. I mean, and you are the best testimonial, Preeti, because you said that headaches are.
Yeah, my headaches have, yeah.
Yeah. And so salts are very important. You really want to be able to have those electrolytes in. And remember, for kids, for the elder, for anybody really, but I know that parents typically run and get those things and read the ingredients of what's in those drinks that they give to kids when they have when they're sick. And of course, it's important. You do not want the kids to get dehydrated. And oftentimes what happens? They get diarrhea. So like even for us adults, what happens? I don't mean to talk about this because I know it's pretty disgusting, but what's diarrhea? It's watery poop, right? So watery, that means that the body is getting that stuff out by pulling all the water to get it out immediately. It doesn't have time to form the feces and make it into a nice log, and then it gets it out slowly. No. It's like, this has to come out now. So it's very urgent. And the reason why, and the body, you could see this, it's not because I said that it's urgent, but when you have diarrhea, and I'm sure you've all experienced it, we have all experienced it because I'm part of that group too. Haven't you ever wondered whether you're going to make it to the bathroom before you can go? Like, because I know that I've been in that situation. Imagine the urgency of the body. It doesn't even wait for you to make it to the bathroom. On a regular day, you could hold it, right? You're at the school talking to your child's, let's say, parent-teacher interview, and you have to go to the bathroom. You're like, oh, I'm going to have to hold it until I get to a bathroom. My friends, when you're sick and your body has to get something that's poisoning it, out of your body, like the body needs to get it out of itself, you don't have time. It's urgent. So the body will pull any water from anywhere it can. So that's why we get dehydrated when we have diarrhea, to eliminate whatever it is through the colon as quickly as possible. However, oftentimes, if you're really sick, you will throw up and have diarrhea. So the digestive tract will take it out this way and that way. So yes, we get dehydrated when that happens because you lose so much water that contains the minerals, some of which you get through the food or through your supplementation. And you need to replenish all that. So that's why kids, especially when they sweat or when they have diarrhea, what do parents do? They run out and they get Pedialyte to give it to the children. And it's important that you get them rehydrated because you don't want them to dehydrate. When you're dehydrated, you could be delirious, especially if you have a fever. So it's important that you get that back in. But the best of the best, and this is exactly what they're trying to replicate, is coconut water. But it's important to get it straight from a coconut. There are some companies, super expensive, that are natural, and you will see them in bottles like this, glass. And you could even tell in the taste that it's natural, but it's very expensive, but it's worth it.
But the coconut, actual coconuts are very easily available now, even at Walmart, like for $4 and $5, and it has that straw thing attached, but it's not open. You have to press it down. I'll show you one. Give me 1 second. I'll bring it up.
I've never seen that because I have bought the young Thai coconuts from the grocery store. So I know that I've seen them at the superstore. They have them all the time. And what I would do in the kitchen, I would have that big thing that is actually used to cut meat, like a cleaver, and I would put it in there and I would cut a little square at the top. I would pop that open and then I would put a straw and I would drink out of that. Or you could just take it out and make sure you strain it properly. So that you could do that, but there are some companies that have done the convenience of putting coconut water in bottles so you can drink. But I want to see what Preeti is referring to. I haven't been to Walmart in a very long time, so I'm not aware. But it's definitely. Have any of you, aside from Preeti, has anybody else?
Sorry about that. I took your time.
No, that's okay. I was telling everybody how I open. I just cut them.
Okay, so this is very simple. It's a thing like this.
Oh wow! Okay.
And these are just like $4 or a little more. And then this has got a piercing thing over here. So all you have to do is put it upside down and just bang it.
Press it. Okay.
Just bang it down. So it'll pierce the coconut. And then there's a straw here.
Yeah.
So this thing you can remove it. It's like it's a removable thing. See?
Oh, okay.
So this is only to pierce it.
Okay, very nice.
And this is very easily available at Walmart.
Very nice. Okay, so I'm assuming that it's available now.
Yeah, I've been getting it for the last couple of months now.
Okay.
Like this is the easiest way to do it. So I like this the best. But of course, young coconuts, green with of course you have to break it and stuff like that, which is a little cumbersome. So this is perfect. I think this is the easiest.
Yes. And it's covered. So yeah.
Yeah, it's all covered.
I was telling everybody how I've seen young coconuts, young Thai at the superstore. So that's where I used to buy mine. And I would use a cleaver that is used for cutting meat. And I would just, in the kitchen on the floor, I would cut like a square at the top, pop it open and put a straw in it. Or I would just drain it and put it in a cup. And I used to give it to the kids.
Yeah.
But especially, so very important to do that after, like if you've drank a lot of alcohol and you are you're dehydrated, but they call that a hangover. And remember, even like when you're very hungover, your body forces it out by making you throw up because it's poison to the system. And so you do need to rehydrate. And the best of the best is actually obviously coconut water, or you could do water, just as what I gave you guys here, the water with all of your salts. That's going to make you feel so much better so quickly. I know that there's a lot of stuff out there because people are trying to monetize it. They have the hangover cure pills and all that stuff. But this is the good old fashioned, the cheapest one. If you're gonna go out, I mean, I'm not saying that you ladies would go out and get drunk, but if you know anybody or if you have like family members and they have young men that are gonna go out, just like prepare this in advance and have it ready.
We are trying to get high on water now.
Yes. All right, my friend. So it's 9:30. I will see you next week. We're closing off. We have 2 more weeks. So next week, so I have a question for you guys. I wanted to make sure that I ask you beforehand because I was putting the presentation together. And next week, I'm going to teach you guys how to choose really well if you're going to go out to eat. So dining out. And I wanted to know, so I want to take a menu that we could look at together so that I could show you guys. But I want to know of one. And I remember I've seen, so I'll tell you guys, whenever I go to the Indian restaurants, it puts the Indian name, and then underneath it tells you in English, for people who are not Indian, what's in it, right? So that you know. So let's talk about, I'm not going to obviously use an Indian restaurant because you guys know better than anybody, but what restaurant menu would you like me to look at that, like, let's say that you've gone to a restaurant that you know of that has, and you want to know, like, okay, well, this looks really healthy, but is it healthy? So we could break it down and we could look at it. I don't know whether you have one in mind or if you want me to choose one.
I think you can choose one, like an average.
Yeah, so that I could show you guys how to look through.
Yeah.
I know that oftentimes like salads are very deceiving. Okay, so I'll choose one. And so next week, that's what we'll be talking about. We'll be talking about how to make good food choices dining out, or even if you're going to go to somebody's house and they have foods that you sometimes don't eat or don't want to eat because it's not part, like you're vegetarian, you go to somebody's house and they have meat, only meat. What do you do? So we'll be talking about that. And then after that, we'll have 1 more week. But don't worry, fear not. I already have my list of things. I'm gonna invite you all guys. I will work with Jaspreet to get email addresses so that I can invite you guys to some of the ones that we're gonna do on some of the things that you guys have asked for, and I have some other ones for like women's health. And invite the men; they need to understand as well. I mean, if you have daughters or anything like that, like we need to understand the processes of the female body so that we can understand what happens and the maintenance of health. So I will see you guys next week.
All right. Thank you.
Have a great night, guys.
Wonderful session. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Preeti. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.